Collingwood has traded in a top 10 draft selection on 7 occasions since the first national draft was held in 1986. The first of these was Jason McCartney, who was chosen with pick 4 in 1990. McCartney would go on to play 38 games in 4 seasons at Victoria Park, but was never able to lock down a regular senior spot. After a stint at Adelaide, McCartney made a name for himself at North Melbourne, where he played 107 games. He is remembered and revered, of course, for his return from severe injuries suffered in the Bali bombings. For the history buffs, the Magpies had to part with 20-gamer Terry Keys to secure pick 4. Keys' destination? Richmond. You can't win them all.
What?
Collingwood and Sydney would have been quite pleased with how their transaction played out in the spring of 1999. The Swans received Andrew Shawbull, who went on to win a best and fairest in his first season in the Harbour City. The Magpies, meanwhile, claimed a draft pick that would net them Leon Davis, one of the finest players of the modern era. But there was one final piece of the puzzle that never found its way to Victoria Park. Mark Kinnear, a prodigious talent from Kilmore, was traded to Collingwood along with pick number 34. Unfortunately, he quit the club in early December, never to return. The 2 p.m. trade deadline had people tearing their hair out. St Kilda champion Luke Ball had declared his desire to join Collingwood for the 2010 season, but his old club wasn't having a bar of it.
No! God, please, no! No!
What would be enough to convince the Saints to make a deal? Nothing, according to the men from Moorabbin.
Tell him he's dreaming.
The trade period came and went, and suddenly, Ball was without a home. Both he and Collingwood faced a nervous wait on draft day, with the Pies forced to wait until pick number 30 before making their first choice. Hearts fluttered as Melbourne read out Luke Tapscott's name at pick 18, only to settle when recruiter Derek Hine said the magic words. Within 12 hours of becoming a Magpie, Ball was boarding a plane to Arizona to link up with his new teammates on a training camp. Ball told the club's magazine that, literally a couple of days after joining Collingwood, I was walking 6 hours up and down a massive mountain on the other side of the world in -2 degrees. You never know who's watching, even when you're a tagger. Carl Steinfort played 65 games for Geelong, but his most notable came when he tagged Collingwood captain Nathan Buckley midway through 2000. He kept Bucks to just 19 disposals on a bitterly cold winter afternoon at the MCG. Just 4 months later, the Magpies came calling, swapping Steinfort for draft selection 44. And it was that performance against Buckley that had caught the club's attention. Assistant coach Michael Broadbridge said the job he performed on Nathan Buckley impressed us, and he has carried out similar jobs on other clubs' players. It attracted a bit of attention and wouldn't have hurt my chances of coming here, Steinfort admitted, but I still believe that performance was a little bit overrated. It will be great to play with Nathan rather than against him. Fremantle has been a happy trading ground for Collingwood recruiters since the turn of the century. It all started with James Clement and Brodie Holland, 2 virtual no-names who arrived at Victoria Park via a convoluted trade at the end of 2000. By the time they departed, Clement had won 2 Copeland trophies and 2 All-Australian berths, whilst Holland had become one of the club's most consistent players. 6 years later, the Pies came out trumps again, securing Paul Medhurst and pick 8, which was used to net Ben Reid in exchange for Chris Tarrant. Tarrant, of course, gave great service for the Dockers before returning to Collingwood at the end of 2010. He would play 35 games in his final 2 years, a stint that included the 2011 Grand Final.